So first things first, Annie, how are you?
Good. Yeah, thank you.
It's very good to hear. So before we get into the record, I wrote down a quote of something. I think it was in the album teaser. Oh no, it was in the masterclass teaser where you said there's no way to be good at something without being bad at it first. Do you remember being bad at music?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
What was that like? What were those early? Well, that sounds weird, but
No,
what were those?
I know what I know what you're saying. I mean, it's funny because I remember trying to learn a song and like not getting it, but I also feel like I had this sort of like I had this ear that would like I had like a psychic ear that would be kind of almost like gentle, like it would make me sound better than I did to kind of keep me going forward.
Sure.
And then later on, when I was kind of, skilled enough to handle it, I could actually listen back and be like, ooh, this is not very good, but I can get better. But when you're first starting, you want to just feel like.
Sure. Do you remember that first song, or maybe it was the very first thing that you made, but the first thing that you were proud of that you made?
There's a record called Daddy's Home. It's coming out in May. And no, I mean, it's not the first thing I was proud of. God, I think I had a little Tascam 4-track.
Okay.
And I remember I had this like child-sized drum set, like I'm not even sure. I borrowed it from my friend. I'm not even sure where she got it. Like it was not really a proper thing, but I remember being really proud that I'd done, a cover of something and played all the instruments, because I had a bass and I played the drums and I played the guitar and recorded and sang it and I recorded all my Tascam 4-track. And I just remember thinking, wow.
And what age was this? Around
I was probably in eighth or ninth grade, 14 or 15, something like that.
So this creative process, you mentioned all these different instruments. What did you get out of that in a way, the creative expression in all these, in multiple ways?
It was unlike anything I had access to. It was unlike any other feeling. I had my heroes and I wanted to be like my heroes and wanted to do what my heroes did. So, just write songs, write bad songs, make demos, try to kind of get one fraction of what you love about someone else's music into your own.
And now I read that your father had quite the record collection. So were there one or two albums that really stuck out for you?
It was more a CD collection, but it was the
fair enough.
80s and 90s. Yeah, I mean, I remember listening to Steely Dan, so much Steely Dan. Massive Steely Dan fan. It was my first concert actually, which was not that cool for most people, but it was very cool for me. What else? Really that period of music from 71 to 76, New York, Stevie Wonder.
It's probably difficult to pinpoint because a lot of this is very emotive, but what can you pinpoint what that was about that era of music?
God, I mean, I think the world was bad, but music was really good. In some ways, I'm not that much of an idealist. Like I'm sort of pragmatic in ways. And there's something about that music, which is not like flowers in the sky, flower children, utopian. It's like grimy and sleazy and a little more verite.
Well, you mentioned, go ahead.
And funny, I mean, I guess the writing was just so So great. It was really musically sophisticated, but you didn't know it. It's just musical. People could really play, could write,
You
sing.
mentioned these words like sleazy and grimy, and now that those were the same words that were in the bio about this new album, Daddy's Home. So how did you try to kind of capture that feeling in a way?
Well, first I wrote I wrote narratives of flawed people doing their best to get by, and used just the sounds, used the instruments that were pretty idiomatic of that time. And then just jammed, just played. And, it's loose, it's loose, but it grooves. It's nothing about it is like fussy or perfect. It's just captured in the moment and felt, and that's just it's just a really different way of making records than I've ever done.
What gave way to this approach then?
I think I went as far as I could go with a certain kind of structure. I mean, I think I'm more of a song person. I'm not a jam person per se. I think it's great to jam, but you need to jam over structure. So I'm still like, it's very much about the songwriting, but it's also, I went as far as I could go with a certain kind of guitar sound or a certain rigidity. And I wanted to make something that was just really fluid and really energy like this instead of like.
Was that difficult to kind of get those, because you've studied at Berkeley, I believe, and I mean, you're very knowledgeable about music. Was it difficult to kind of throw that all away out of your head? And
it's funny because one of the reasons I left Berkeley in the first place was because I was like, okay, I understand that this place can teach people a certain level of craft and to be a craftsperson, right? And that's important. You need to have a certain level of, you need to have some tools in your toolbox for sure. But this place can't teach you how to be an artist. And the only reason to have all those tools in your toolbox is because you have something to say. And that was the thing that never really got touched on at Berkeley in terms of, they teach you how to be the best at this, but what does it matter if it's not in service of a point of view? So no, I mean, I think actually I think there's the Berkeley damage was more damage that said like something has to be incredibly complicated in order to be valid. But in this case, I was going back to music that is really sophisticated. Harmonically, it's sophisticated. Rhythmically, it's not a 3-chord song, but it wasn't. There was nothing about it that was complexity for complexity's sake. It was all in service of something musical and in saying what I needed to say. So I think that's the distinction with it.
And with that in mind, then, and you mentioned that you started out by writing songs, stories about very flawed people. So what was the first story that you wrote?
The first song I wrote for the record was Somebody Like Me.
Okay.
And the second song I wrote for the record was Holiday Party.
Okay.
So, I could write this stuff because like I'm deeply flawed, and I think kind of so is everybody to some degree, and I could write these stories because I've been these people. Yeah.
Well, yeah, my next question was going to be whether it would be autobiographical elements of yourself or just witnessing the world in a way.
It's all of the above,
Okay.
Some of it is so literal that I'm hiding in plain sight, and some of it is obviously imagination and to build out the narrative, to tell the story.
Well, let's take the first one that you mentioned, Somebody Like Me. What was it that the line I wrote down was genius or a fool of the week. Am I a genius or a fool of the week? But what was kind of the idea behind that song? What made you write that down?
Well, I guess It's the idea that like, oh, behind that line or
Well,
the song.
not specifically that line, but just the
Well,
song.
I mean, I think this is, I believe this is a romantic notion, but I think that love is sort of a mutually agreed upon delusion, between people. And it's kind of a narrative that you create together. And there's something about a lot of love songs which are, I'm going to love you forever and it's till the end of the earth and all this stuff. And it's sort of like, this is not that promise. Like time is going to be the thing that tells us what happens.
Sure.
What do I know? But, but I see that you believe in me more than I believe in me. So maybe I can, maybe we can just believe in this thing together, and create it.
Because is there also a sense of kind of confidence, somebody else having confidence in you that you might not have in yourself?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like if you have a mirror where you're like, I look amazing. That's helpful. It's helpful because we live by stories. We live by the stories we tell ourselves. We live by massive cultural stories. I mean, it's all this construct. So if we can tell ourselves a different story, we have the power to shape our realities.
I definitely agree with that. And well, with that comes kind of, like you said, either you might think of yourself idealistic or I think of myself at times as naive and things about the world. But
that's really sweet and sort of ironic to think of yourself as naive.
Well,
like you have some awareness that would true naivete be to not know that you're naive?
To be completely oblivious to it? Maybe. Yeah. Might be. But I'm somebody who overthinks things and reflects a lot, so that doesn't help with that. Especially because of last year being as weird as it was. What is one story that you told yourself that kind of you realized wasn't true?
One story that I told myself was that it was impossible for me to be in one place for more than 2 weeks at a time. And I didn't invent that story. It was simply the circumstance of my life.
Sure.
I didn't know what to do if I wasn't, off working here or off doing this, kind of constantly chasing it. And obviously I couldn't travel last year. And I thought it's the first time in my adult life that I've been still.
Okay.
Because I've been touring since I was in my early 20s, and that's been my whole life. So I didn't think I could do it, but I did it. I did it. And I think we as human beings, like we are very adaptable. We are very adaptable to circumstance. So, and I mean, I was lucky. None of my friends or family got terribly ill or passed away, and I had food and shelter and all that stuff. So,
talking about all of the years before, then all of those years before, when because of the way I see it, I don't know how you experience it, but you're always have been on an upward trajectory, I would say, in terms of success and attention and everything. It's always been going like this. And you mentioned never being in the same place for longer than 2 weeks. Did you enjoy that kind of hectic nature of life?
I mean, I did. I did. And at some point, or I didn't know any different, you know. But I mean, I remember at some point around 2015, I was traveling so much. And this is, I mean, I feel bad about this from a carbon footprint standpoint, but I would go to Tokyo for the weekend.
It's crazy.
Like, nothing. You know what I mean? It's not, yeah. I mean, I remember going to Tokyo, like, oh, we should go to Tokyo this weekend. For a weekend. So, I mean, you know, it's like,
Well, let me ask it differently then, because I wrote down you work with your aunt and uncle who are in the music, Tuck and Patty, and obviously you got to see kind of a little bit of what being a musician in the music industry entailed. Has it kind of been as you were growing up? Has it been as you expected in a way?
I don't really know what I expected. I never wanted to be, with the exception of being 8 years old, and they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I want to be president. Like, I don't fucking want to be president. But besides that little, brief time, the only thing I ever wanted to do was be a musician. I don't remember life for music or before, feeling like this calling. And so I don't know, but I don't know that I have a great ability to project that far into the future. Mm-hmm. I'm more just focused on like what is right in front of me. And I don't really look back. So I don't know what I expected, but I do know that like, I feel like I'm just getting started, and it's crazy. Like it's crazy to me that, like you said, and I would agree. It's been a slow climb up the mountain or whatever. And I've been lucky because I've gotten to become better at my job, and people still want to hear from me. This many records in, and that's, I realize now, more so than ever, just like how lucky that is, because it's pretty rare. I mean, it is pretty rare. I've seen a lot of bands come and go. I've seen a lot of artists do this and, go into obscurity or all that stuff, or people get huge and then whatever. Anyway, I'm going to get some more water, but it's been a ride.
Right. With what you just mentioned then, and I don't think you are, but does that add pressure in a way to, especially now, new album? Do you feel kind of like you need to perform in a way, or you need to, I don't know the right way of saying it.
You mean like in a commercial sense, or in a?
Well, in a sense of being able to do what you do, because I suppose in the creative sense, that's already what you're doing. You just do what you do. But to be able to continue what you do, I mean, there is a commercial element to it then.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny, and this might seem counterintuitive, but I don't think about the commercial aspect of it at all anymore. Like the more I've gone, the less I think about the commercial aspect of it, which is counterintuitive because things have, I've gotten increasingly popular as I put out music. And again, that's super lucky. That is not kind of the normal way. With Daddy's Home, I don't think about it at all. Okay. I mean, I think about creating a world. I think about the shape of the album. I mean, I put all my effort into that, but I have no idea.
That's good. I think that's very healthy. A very healthy way of looking at it, instead of having all these expectations or pressure to do something.
I mean, don't tell my record company, but I don't know.
Let's get into the record a little bit more then, because you mentioned that some lines are very literal, from kind of straight from your life, and there's one where I thought that might be very, very. If Daddy's Home, signing autographs in a visiting room, I can imagine that happening.
Yeah, that happened. That was.
That must be bizarre, right?
Bizarre, but it's so funny. That is so like, just like life converges, Yeah, it was. I mean, it's like it said in the bio, I have firsthand experience now with the American prison system. And, it's the whole thing is Kafkaesque. I mean, it's arbitrary. There are all these arbitrary rules. There's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've got stories forever, but yeah, I did. It was one of the last times I went to go see him before he got released. And it was, I signed an autograph because you're not allowed to take cell phones in. So luckily we couldn't take a selfie, because an autograph is sort of that's kind of an outdated thing that people
Sure.
do. People want a selfie, but thank God.
With bars behind you.
Oh, glad this is not this moment isn't immortalized that way.
Obviously, your father going to prison must be difficult. I don't know the circumstances, and I'm not going to pry either. But what made you?
Well, I can say that it was white collar, and I only specify that to say like it wasn't like a violent assault or anything like that, for whatever that,
But what I wondered was what made this album kind of the album where you were willing to talk about it or open enough to talk about it?
Well, a number of years ago, it was like I was for a split second. I don't mean to overstate it, but I was like in the tabloids, and the tabloids went like trying to dig up dirt on me, which I mean, it's good luck. I mean, it's not, but anyway, they sort of uncovered that story, which wasn't anything I want to talk about. It's like, one, I think for a lot of years, and this is my general ethos, like I don't want to get in between somebody's interpretation of the music, like I've had songs ruined once I know what the artist's intention was. I don't think the artist's intention is relevant at all.
Okay.
So part of it was like, I don't want to sully someone's listening experience by knowing the exact autobiographical details of my life.
Right.
But it was kind of put out there in this way that was like, ugh. And then I was asked about it, or it was referenced in various, like music press stuff when I was doing music interviews. It kind of so like, well, you know what? This story has a lot more to it than the sort of like salacious whatever anecdote. And actually, I want to be able to tell my story, and I can tell that story with like humor and compassion and a lot of, tell it with an arc instead of it kind of being a tabloidy tidbit. But if it hadn't been out there, I probably wouldn't talk about it.
One thing that I noticed, and I'm not very musical, so I don't know if this is in any way correct, but I heard a lot of electric piano, and I thought that was kind of the foundation for a lot of songs.
Yeah, it is a Wurlitzer. It's a Wurlitzer in there a lot, and some clav. So, but yeah, that's definitely the foundation, because they just, at one, it's very idiomatic of that time, and it's just like it's really warm and like buttery, and it's a great sound. I mean, it really is. So it's a very inviting sound. So. And
earlier on in the interview, you mentioned that you kind of wanted to let go of structure a little bit, but not too much. I
wanted to let go of things being strict. I don't think I necessarily wanted to let go of structure, because these songs are very much, they are songs,
right.
There's verses and choruses and all that stuff, but definitely anything that I want to let go of, anything that felt like strict.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wonder what role did Jack Antonoff play in kind of creating that as well?
A lot. I mean, Jack, most of the record is just me and Jack playing the instruments.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot of us jamming. And that's not, I don't use the word jam very often, but yeah, just that sort of, less about having some guitar part that is structured, more about like, okay, then layout, and then a little bit right here, and then layout, just kind of space and a little bit like just a sprinkling of psychedelia.
And I think that you mentioned this in the masterclass trailer as well, but is songwriting for you, is that kind of starting with an idea and just keep hacking at, or hacking is not the right word, but
no, hacking is perfectly fine. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of, I mean, the thing is, I write in all kinds of different ways. Like, Pay Your Way in Pain. I had couple modular synths, and I was just turning knobs and plugging shit in until it sounded cool, like.
So trial and error, basically.
Oh, of course, like absolute trial and error, and just playing with that modular for an hour until I got about 6 seconds of something that I was like, ooh, that, and then built a song around, do do da da do 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 do, the bass line. So there's that kind of approach. There's definitely the approach that happened that happens in some songs where it's lyrics first. It's like, here's what it is, and I know what it is, and here's the narrative, and I just have to figure out what it sounds like. And then there's the other thing, which is really, really common for me, but also a longer way around, which is, I mean, I can make music all day. I mean, I don't mean that in a braggy way. I just mean
sure.
The music part, that's easy. But corralling all of it into one place and having something to say, and have that thing that you're saying being powerful, and putting the lyric together with the music, that's the real jujitsu.
Yeah, my next question would be, when do you always know when to stop, in a way? Because that must be, especially these days with technology, there's so many possibilities.
I kind of do now.
Okay.
I didn't always, because what happens, I think, in the creative process a lot of times, or just the emotional arc of any say song or piece of writing, is like, you get the idea and you're like, I'm a genius, this is amazing, and then you come down, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking, I can't see the forest through the trees, and then you kind of come out the other side, which is like, oh, I don't know how it happened, but suddenly I have this, completed vision. There's a point of diminishing returns, definitely, where you can start, if you are too close to something, you can start to just, chip away at things that don't need chipping.
Right.
I think I'm pretty good at knowing when to step away now. Also, I'm sort of impatient, and I like to move on to the next thing.
That helps.
So I'm not somebody who would like hold on to music for 10 years before I release it. That to me just sounds so stressful. I want to get it done and get it out so I can do the next thing, So
it's very, in that sense, very dependent on your mood or your mindset at the moment, I suppose.
I think it's instinct. You kind of know. I know now. I know now when I'm in the right frame of mind to make certain decisions, and I know when I'm going down a road I don't necessarily need to go down, but I'm doing so out of anxiety or something.
Final question then. You're playing Saturday Night Live, which has been, I suppose, a staple in American culture for years. How important is that for you?
Oh, huge. I mean, I love Saturday Night Live. I grew up watching it. No, it's huge. It's like the biggest thing you can get. And I don't mean that in a promotional way. It just, it's like, I don't know. It's live TV to all of America. I mean, I'm just sweating talking about it, but it's like, I love the show. It's such a part of my history and childhood, and so many memories watching it, and so many performances that I remember just going, wow.
Right. Well, having not been able to play, I don't know if you have at all in the last couple of months or year, but are you nervous now, trying to get into game shape in a way?
No, not after rehearsals. But I mean, it takes me a while, personally, to get something really in my being in a deep way where I can just fully embody it. So I personally started rehearsing by myself weeks and weeks ago, as soon as I found out.
Okay.
So I think I'm in pretty good shape.
That's going to be good. Well, I wish you the best of luck at
Thank
Saturday
you.
Night Live, and then obviously with the album release as well. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
You bet. Thank you. I like your guitars and the Christmas tree in the back.
Thank you.